Vermont is still proceeding with their single-payer healthcare system. Looks like this is going to be an epic thing. I am back from my book tour a week from tomorrow. Not tomorrow. I think last week I had been saying tomorrow, but a week from tomorrow. On December, what would that be? The 3rd, I think? December 3, a week from tomorrow, I will be at Politics and Prose here in Washington, D.C., the bookstore, signing books. So those of you in the D.C. area, we will have great fun. We're going to have a good time. Paul Krugman has an interesting blog in the New York Times today, California, Here We Come, about how well Obamacare is actually working in California. It's very interesting. The numbers, he says, are increasingly encouraging. And the same thing in Kentucky. There was another blog over, I think it was at Democratic Underground, about how, this kind of... I'm reluctant to put on labels, so I'll just give you the details. A white guy making around $18,000 a year with a couple of kids in Kentucky walks in and says, "This Obamacare thing, can I get something? I got no insurance, right?" Well, yes, sir. Not only do you get it, but you get it for free because you're eligible for Medicaid. Because Kentucky took the Medicaid money and their governor set up an exchange. Even though this is Mitch McConnell territory, right? And the guy's going, that's interesting. I think I just became a Democrat. This is what the Republicans are so afraid of. This is what they are plain old flat out terrified by. There's no other way to describe it than just, plain old terror. Here he is. His name was Ronald Hudson. He was 35 years old. He never had insurance. He says his hospital bills were $23,000 at that point. He had 5 kids, made $14,000 before taxes. He says, well, thank God, I believe I'm going to be a Democrat. And this is in an area where Romney took 66% of the vote. Obama only took 31% of the vote. Interesting post about this by Marcos Melitsas over at the Daily Kos. So do you get it? This is as much as I was first in line, I guess, to say, Obamacare, it's just Romney Care. It's Heritage Foundation Care. It's a program that keeps intact the health insurance companies. But Bernie Sanders and Ron Wyden put this thing into it that said starting in 2016, if a state wants to go single payer, they can. And they are. So we have Vermont going single payer in 2017, January 2017, or at the end of 2016. And in the meantime, you've got those states where the Republicans decided, or where the legislatures and the governors decided to take the Medicaid expansion and set up their own exchanges. Things are going quite well. Now, I've said this a couple of times, but I think I probably should repeat it at least once a day, if not once an hour, forever, until the Democrats here in Washington, D.C. figure this thing out and start doing something about it. Bobby Jindal down in Louisiana, Rick Scott down in Louisiana, Rick Snyder up in Michigan, Scott Walker in Wisconsin. Hey, you guys. Whatever happened to Ronald Reagan saying, it's your money, about tax dollars? In your states, and of course they're not alone. It's 30 plus states now, I believe. In these states with these Republican governors, they are perfectly happy to let the federal government take the tax money from the citizens of their state and bring that money to Washington, D.C. But then when Washington, D.C. says, here, we'll give this tax money back to your citizens in Ohio and Wisconsin and Florida and Louisiana and Alabama and Mississippi and Tennessee, we would be glad to give that money back to your citizens. The money that they themselves paid, that you paid, that tax money. Now, the Koch brothers might have paid a little more of it than the average guy who's making $6,000 a year, which might have something to do with why the Koch brothers are sponsoring keggers to get young people to not sign up for Obamacare to try and blow this system up. But the fact of the matter is that federal tax dollars came from these states, went to Washington, D.C., And Washington, D.C. is now saying to these states, hey, you want your tax dollars back? We'll give it to you in the form of Medicaid. We'll give it to you in the form of free health insurance for people who are making up to 132% of poverty. Or 147 or whatever, roughly 1.5 times the rate of poverty. It's free. And you've got these governors saying, no, we're not going to take it. And they're using this excuse like, oh, that would make us dependent on the government. It's your money. It was your tax dollars to begin with, people. Your governor and your Republican state legislators, your Republican governor and your Republican state legislator. Now, there are a few exceptions. Jan Brewer in Arizona, she said, yeah, we'll take our money back. I think there might be one other exception, one other Democrat or one other Republican who's taken their money back. But this needs to be the mantra. I mean, the Democrats need to be designing campaign ads right now for the 2014 election in those states that do not take Medicaid money back from the federal government. They need to say, citizens of Florida, taxpayers of Florida, you paid federal taxes. Your money went to the federal government. The federal government wants to give your money back to you in the form of free health insurance. But Rick Scott says he doesn't want to take that money because he's trying to hurt the Democrats. He's trying to make it look bad for Obama. He thinks if he doesn't take that money and you don't have health insurance, that you'll be upset with Obama. Do you get this, people who live in Florida? Do you get this, people who live in Louisiana? Do you get this, Alabamians? Do you get this, people who live in Mississippi? Do you get this, Texans? Rick Perry doesn't want you to have your money, your tax dollars, the money that you sent to Washington, D.C. in the form of federal taxes. Rick Perry doesn't want you to get that back in the form of free health care. So if you don't, if you're making Walmart wages, if you're making if you're making under the poverty level or under 130 or so percent of the poverty level, sorry, you don't get health insurance. Because Rick Perry said, yeah, they paid taxes, but no, they can't have the money back. I'm serious. And this, I mean, think about it for a minute. That's what these Republican governors, that's what Rick Perry and Rick Scott and Scott Walker and Rick Snyder are saying. Now, John Kasich, he said, okay, we'll take the money. Jan Brewer, okay, we'll take the money. As far as I know, they're the only two Republicans. There might have been another one or two. Oh, Chris Christie, yeah, he said, I'll take the money too. See, he's no dummy. He's going to run for president. Can you see Scott Walker running for president on the campaign, on the platform of, yeah, we don't want to take that federal money that we pay to the federal government. No.